welcome to the Decompression Chamber. I am Andrea, and joining me this week is my shipmate, Chris Brown. Chris, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Glad to be here. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks so
This
much for
is
coming on, man.
absolutely. This is interesting. Never done a podcast, so new to
Uh,
me.
All right, fantastic. Well, hey, first time for everything. I've never hosted one before, certainly not effectively, so yeah. Um, well, awesome, man. Well, yeah, just to kind of give people the backstory, I first met you, I guess it had to have been in 2010 or 2011 in the not so great state of Washington. Doing Navy stuff, but of course, that's not where anyone's story begins. Where are you from?
I'm from Central New York,
Okay.
a little city called Utica. It's about 30 minutes south, or I'm sorry, 30 minutes
I know Utica. That's
east.
where Fat
Say,
Cat's Comedy Club is.
yep.
Awesome. Yeah, I've actually
Born.
been there, believe it or not.
Wow. Yeah, born and raised. And for those of you who may not know and seen the show The Office, the Utica Paper Company. Yeah, that's the same place.
All right. All right. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, from central New York, I mean, beautiful surrounding area in some cases, I suppose, depending on the weather. But yeah, what was your upbringing like? You had brothers, sisters. What'd you like to do?
I got a half brother.
Okay.
Um, my brother and I had our upbringings were a little different. We're 7 years apart. Um, my dad was in prison.
Oh,
His
jeez.
dad was adopted me, so it kind of
Wow.
upbringings are a little different. We didn't have a lot of money as I was growing up, and then as he got older, they had a little bit more. So
Hmm.
um, it's just a little different. He graduated valedictorian of his high school, went to got scholarships, went to
Wow.
Rochester Institute of Technology. He got a physics degree and is
Holy
like a
shit.
legit physicist now.
Yeah,
He
that's a sharp dude.
worked his way up, and now he's an actual physicist with a top secret clearance and works for MIT.
Holy crap. That's
I
impressive.
Some papers were dropped. I think my mom hit me in a ceiling fan or something. I don't know. I think it was I don't I don't know I don't know what happened to me. Clearly, the genes came from his dad. I don't know,
Something.
but
Yeah, those genius genetics missed you though, huh? That's
I don't
happens.
know what happened. He
Uh,
got more Flint. I don't know if he got more Flintstone vitamins than I did. I don't know.
well, I'm sure he might. He probably can't even explain it either. I mean, he's a physicist, not a geneticist. But
Yeah,
I mean, did you get more of the brawn, more of the athleticism, or
yeah, yeah. I was always the athlete.
right on?
He was on the bowling team. I was a football guy. So
There you go. Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, footballer can probably bowl. A bowler probably can't play football, so that's a good. You got the good trade off there. And I forget, did you say he was older or younger or same age?
younger. He's 7 years younger.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
okay, yeah, that's a pretty decent age difference then. All right, awesome. So, all right, growing up, you got a little bit of a different household, but what was your view on the military? Did you have any exposure to it or any thoughts about it growing up?
So nobody in my family was in the military. Nobody in my family were police officers. Nobody was in public service.
Hmm.
Um, I grew up in a bad area in Utica. I know you said you've been there. Are you familiar with West Utica?
No, no. Like
Um,
I went to the comedy club, which is like in a little strip mall, and that was it. And I got the fuck out. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, just looking
So,
at a map, I'm like,
um,
this doesn't look like a good place.
yeah, no, it's not. So it was, yeah, it was interesting. But what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. So you think about joining the military, but like you said, no one you knew, no
Oh
one in
yeah,
your
yeah, that's right.
family. Yeah.
Right, right. So it wasn't really a big thing. Utica's not a military town, and I was never really, honestly, all through high school, I told myself, I'm not joining the military. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Oh,
But
wow.
it turns out, when I graduated, I wanted to be a commercial diver.
Makes sense.
So I went to Jacksonville. Yeah, I went to Jacksonville, Florida. When I was 18. I went to the Commercial Diving Academy of St. John's River in
Oh, wow.
Jacksonville, which is kind of like the civilian version of Navy diver. type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It's gas. It's mixed surface stick to um, surface mixed air gas diving.
Right.
But uh, that didn't really work out. When I did a little bit more, I should have done a little more research before I went down there.
Hmm.
I mean, we've all made mistakes. My life has had a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Well, that happens a lot
you know,
more
you
when
try.
you're still a teenager. So.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't have really any guidance. I mean, my stepdad, used to tell me all the time that he can't wait till I left the house, and I was kind of living on my own anyway. So it's a bad situation. It's a bad situation, but
Yeah.
so yeah, I went down there. I tried it out. After being down there a couple months, I realized, this really isn't for me. It's not that I didn't like diving. I love being around the water. I love diving. I loved all that. I was good at school. I passed my flange project, which is like where they duct tape your mask and you got to put together a flange, basically blindfolded underwater in a 20, 20 foot tank.
Oh wow.
Um, but all the money is like offshore. You got to work for like an oil company offshore and
Oh
like the Gulf
yeah,
of
yeah.
Mexico, and that's kind of equivalent to like almost a military lifestyle, not in the sense of how strict it is and how they talk to you and their lifestyle, but you're away from home all the time. I've always wanted some sort of a life. I don't want to spend my entire life working um, offshore on an oil platform
Right.
because it makes real money. You got to be offshore 7 to 9 months out of the year.
Holy crap. Yeah, that's a while.
You'll make good money. Don't get me wrong. You'll make six figures, but I'm not trying to work 8 months straight out of the year
Hell
on oil
no.
platform. So I looked at inshore dive companies, people that do um, construction, underwater construction on immovable underwater structures such as bridges, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and that looked cool, but the pay is low. It was
Really?
surprising. They really don't pay. A lot of companies were starting divers off at 30-something thousand dollars. So
What
I
the
was like,
fuck?
yeah,
That's wild.
yeah, I was mind blown. So a lot of people are like, well, underwater welding. Well, I did welding for 2 years in high school.
Mhm.
I went to vocational school and got AWS certified in gas tungsten arc welding and did all that. And I had my experience in welding, and most welding is done topside. It's done
Right, right.
in the surface. When you weld something underwater, um, under a direct current, not an alternating current, it's one of the biggest difference. But when you do it underwater,
Mhm.
you have to when you weld something and it cools automatically,
Oh, of
it,
course.
there tends to be cracks in it, stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff
Oh,
is done
right.
topside and then lowered underwater. The only welding that's done underwater are done on things that cannot be brought to the surface. Like, for example, underwater oil platforms, the structures that hold to the sea floor, stuff like that.
Sure.
Um, that's the only type of welding. Underwater welding is probably like 2% of the job, maybe 1% of the job.
Okay. Gotcha. Makes sense.
And a lot of the schools will try to get you to pay to get certified in that while you're there. It's like an extra 3 week course, but
Right.
it's a waste of money because for anybody who might be listening that wants to go to do that,
Mhm.
when you go to a big company and go offshore and they want you to do underwater welding, they'll pay for you to go do it for free.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So I recommend just get your thing, go whatever. But long story short, I went down to Florida. I tried that out, decided it wasn't for me. I want something different.
Yeah.
So I called my adopted father, my mom, who did whatever he wanted to do. And they said, "You're on your own. We don't care. So sad. Too bad."
Oh, jeez.
And that was it. From that moment on, at 18 years old, I was on my own. I've never received one dime from not one person ever.
Holy shit,
I
man.
have not. Yeah. So that was it. I talked to the head of the dive academy, and he let me work at the dive academy, taking out garbage, operating a forklift that I had no license to operate, but I used to operate it anyway.
Forklift certifications. There's another one. You probably make more doing that than underwater, for diving stuff, right?
Yeah. So I did that. Took out trash for about a week, maybe week and a half, 2 weeks. and then I saved up money for a plane ticket one way back to Syracuse, New York,
Mm-hmm.
Utica. Um, got back to Syracuse. I had no ride home. Again, my parents didn't pick me up. At this point, I still haven't even met my father.
Wow.
So, I did. I graduated high school, but we didn't talk. So I think he went back to prison. But
Jesus.
yeah, yeah. So I ended up having some change in my pocket, and feel free to stop me and ask questions along the way. I know I'm
No.
kind of long-winded.
No, all good, man.
Um, but so I'm left at the Syracuse airport. I got a little suitcase um, full of, probably about 3, 4 different outfits. I've
Mm-hmm.
got a blanket, got a pillow, and I'm chilling. And I was there probably a day and a half, trying to figure out how to get home. I get a hold of my uncle, with my great uncle, my mom's uncle,
Mm-hmm.
Teddy. I use his name, Teddy. He picked me up from the airport. He's the only one. So
Holy shit,
I don't know
dude.
how I collected. I don't know how I collected that 50, 75 cents, whatever it was. That took me to call him, but I did. I called him. He came and picked me up, brought me to Boonville, New York. And if
Okay.
you're not from Central New York, you don't know where Boonville, New York is. Okay, Boonville, New York is the middle of nowhere. John Deere. Everybody's got a John Deere tractor. It's
Hell yeah.
like, it's one of those places where the school has tractor day, where the kids drive their tractors
Nice.
to
That's
school. It's
awesome.
probably an hour. Yeah, it's probably about an hour away from Utica. So I go there. I get a job at a Blizzard company making trailers for snowmobiles.
Okay.
I'm about 19 years old at this point.
Yeah.
It took me. I'm totally mind blown at people that say, "Well, I can't find a job." Okay, I've never had a point in my life where I couldn't find a job unless.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I people try to do only what they want. Sometimes you got to settle and take whatever's available. I didn't have any
Yeah.
construction experience at all. I took a minimum wage job doing that. I worked there for probably a month and a half until I got fired because I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
These things happen. But hey, you had a month and a half of pay. What the fuck, you know? It's a couple
Yeah, month
paychecks.
and a half pay. So I gave him money. I gave my great uncle a little bit of money, and I was pretty productive because he was married to. I seriously, I hope you're strapped in because I can't make this shit up. I really can't. He was married to a deaf woman. The
All
deaf
right.
woman taught me sign language while I was there. She pulled out a book, put it on the table, and I learned to spell the alphabet out in sign language and little slangs along the way,
Hell yeah.
um, which ended up being useful in my job now. But anyway,
Oh yeah, yeah.
so so I get tanked from this Blizzard place making trailers,
Yeah.
right? But I'm determined. Okay,
Of
I'm
course.
determined. So I go get a job and do what everybody else in New York State does. Go work at a pizzeria.
Hell
So I
yeah.
got a job over at this place called Capri Pizza in Boonville, New York.
Perfect.
My uncle, it was in like the little town of Boonville, which is
Mhm.
probably like 3 blocks long,
Yeah, that's all you need.
um, 4 blocks. So I worked there part time, 2 days a week, and I tell my uncle, probably the only person in my life that's ever helped me.
Mhm.
I can't sit here and mooch off you. I
Yeah.
can't do it. I'm only working 2 days a week. I'm not making enough money. I gave him money anyway, even though he didn't ask for it. I left it on the counter.
Yeah.
And I had him drop me off in Utica.
Mhm.
Okay, my grandma. I grew up on the west side. My
Mhm.
grandma lived in West Side. For those of you who don't know Utica, New York, that's the hood. All right, that's a bad area. It's over by the brewery. Um,
Ah,
Saratoga,
just about enough
yeah,
said.
Saratoga Street, Lenox Avenue, that whole area.
Yeah.
Um, so he drops me off. My grandma's getting public assistance to pay for her rent.
Mhm.
God rest her soul. She's dead now. She died in 2019.
Oh, sorry to
But
hear.
she, against that, and with her being in fear of not getting public assistance anymore for her rent, she let me stay in one of her spare bedrooms, which is a very, very, very small apartment.
Mhm.
Her apartment was probably under 200 square feet. It was really small.
Holy
It's
shit.
probably maybe 200 square feet, maybe. It's comprised of a living room, a very small kitchen, very small bathroom,
Mhm.
and a very, very, very small one bedroom. She slept on the couch anyway every night. Why? So that it kind of, was conducive to the situation. So I
Wow.
stayed there for a while. I got a job working at Walmart as an overnight cashier.
Okay.
Uh, Overnights for 11.05 an hour, which back in 2009 wasn't so bad.
No, no, not at all. I think that's probably about what I was making as a hotel front desk clerk. So probably not even that
Yeah,
much. Now that I think about it.
so I was an overnight cashier for Walmart. That was fun. Interesting, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Did that for about 7 months, 32 hours a week every week. Saved up a little bit of money. I bought a Ford Explorer for $1,000. It had 238,000 miles on it.
Hell yeah.
This thing had a bent front axle on it, and
That doesn't really need to be that straight. I mean, there's some
okay,
wiggle room.
it got me from yeah, it got me from A to B.
That's
Had
all
a
that
little bit of
matters.
rust on it, and anybody from upstate New York knows that pretty much every vehicle that's over 5 years old has a little bit of rust on it up there. 4 years old, just because of the salt on the roads.
Oh,
But
of course.
a little bit
Yeah.
of rust, not too bad. But AC worked, the heat worked, got me from A to B.
There you go,
I
man.
couldn't really go. I couldn't really go above 45 miles an hour because of the bent axle. It kind of felt like the Columbian space shuttle re-entering the atmosphere. So it was
With
a
probably
little
about the
bit
same result if you got it up high, going fast enough.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of
Jesus.
like the Navy Humvees. When we got past a certain
Yeah.
speed limit,
Yeah.
yeah.
Holy
So
cow.
that was interesting. It was an interesting vehicle. So I stayed there. I ended up getting a girlfriend.
Hmm.
Uh, couldn't stay there for too long, 6 or 7 months. Uh, Me and the girlfriend crashed and burned. Go figure.
Yeah.
Um,
So it goes.
and that ended up being my daughter, who I have full custody of now, who's now will be 14 this year,
Wow.
being her mom.
Awesome.
So not only did I have a girl pregnant, I had nothing going for me, and I was working part time, living in the hood of my grandma's house. But it was in a bad situation. So
Yeah.
my uncle across the street, who's now a meth head,
Oh,
came
jeez.
across the street. I'm pretty sure he was smoking meth back then too. It just wasn't as bad.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, "You need to leave. Grandma's gonna get in trouble." And
Yeah, you're saying your uncle who he was a meth head, he's saying you gotta get out of there, you gotta get your grandma in
yeah,
trouble
yeah,
and
my grandma's gonna get in trouble because you're staying here. And I'm like, "Look, man, I got nowhere else to go."
yeah, what are you
And
gonna
then he
do?
was like, "Well, I can't stay here either," or something like that. And I was like, "Dude, you're almost 40 years old. I'm 19. Like,
Yeah.
like
Well,
give
yeah.
me
Who's
give me
got
a
the
little
bigger
bit to
problem?
get this together."
Jesus,
So
dude.
yeah, let's take a seat in my backyard. So
Nice.
yeah, man. So I get into an argument with him, and I mean, you can't reason with somebody who's being unreasonable. So
No, especially not on
that
drugs.
that argument that argument ensued, and he said, "Either leave, or I'm going to basically tell on grandma and get you both in trouble." And I don't know what, he's probably high when he said all this.
Oh, yeah, probably, but you
Whatever.
gotta take
So
it serious.
so I went to yeah. So I went to living out of my Ford Explorer, man. I lived in my Ford Explorer. Because
Shoot.
last thing I wanted was my grandma to get in trouble.
Right.
So I live out of this Ford Explorer. I got all my belongings in the back. I've got uh, a membership at Planet Fitness. I used to go shower there. People used to ask me, why? Because I didn't really have too much money for gas. So I
Yeah.
used to basically live in the Walmart parking lot, man. I lived in the Walmart parking lot.
Holy shit,
Back
dude.
then, Walmart's were 24 hours. So I was 19 years old and with no one,
Jeez, dude.
nobody. But myself, me, and no family to help me out. I tried calling my aunt. She let me stay on her couch, and she's like, "Well, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Carl," and that's the uncle that I got in an argument with.
Yeah.
She's like, "We just don't have the room. We just don't have the room." And I was like, "But he's like 39. I'm 19. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I might need a
like
little bit more help.
yeah, like I haven't gotten my life together yet. I've I got a kid on the way. I've got to get a stable job. I've got these student loans still from the dive academy that's ruining my credit
Oh,
because
right, right, right. Yeah.
I can't pay.
Yeah.
So I end up staying in the SUV for a while. I don't remember how long. Um,
but you get used to solitude after a while. And
Yeah.
I used to people started asking questions like, "How come you're always to work so early?" Or how
Oh
come
yeah.
you, stuff like that. People that work there, and I would lie and tell them like, "Oh yeah, I was sleeping on time,"
Yeah.
and all that stuff because people judge,
Oh
when they
yeah.
when they think when they see somebody in a certain situation, and
For sure.
so I worked there for a while, and one day I was working, and I remember I can't make this story up. I was working the cash register, and I used to comb my hair, because I had the $10 a month Planet Fitness membership. I used to work out while I was there and stuff, and
Of course. Yeah.
and I remember this guy named Alan. He was the sales manager at Carbone Honda. So it was just probably 3 miles from the Walmart that I was working at in New Hartford, which is right outside Utica.
Yeah.
And Alan goes, "Hey man, you like working here?" Just that's how he talks, and I was like, it's okay." He's
Yeah.
like, "Your hair looks good." I was like, "Thanks." He's like, "You want to come?" He's like, "You want to leave this place?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do. If I find something better." He's like, "Hey, well, why don't you come work for me?" And I was like, "Where you work at?" And he was like, "Well, I'm the sales manager at Carbone Honda. Want to come sell cars?
All
Your
right.
hair looks
Hey.
good. I like it." He's like, "You take care of yourself. You come here over. Come on, come down here. Come see me." So I was like, "Well, when?" He was like, "Come when you get off work." I was like, "It's at 8 o'clock in the morning." He was like, "When you get off, come down there. I'll keep my door open." Just like that.
Oh, that's
So
great,
I get
man.
off. So what they do is they bulk up in the summertime on salesmen,
Ah.
and whoever's not selling cars at the end of the 3-4 months of summer, they cut them and they keep the individuals that are selling cars, or more cars, because it's all about money in,
Oh,
in
of
that game.
course. Yeah. Commission.
Well, everything is, but that particular, car sales is competitive.
For
So
sure.
I left. So me not being as experienced in life as I am now, I said, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Should have just stuck with Walmart, but
Ah. You
it was
win some, you
it
lose
was
some.
safe.
Something to
Yeah.
learn.
So, but I took a risk. So I got off work. I never, I at this point my backtrack a little bit. My Ford Explorer had been totaled.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
I was driving on the road. Me and this lady almost got into a side collision. We didn't see each other in the blind spots,
Oh,
and
fuck.
Ford
Yeah, that'll
Explorers are
do it.
top heavy. They're top heavy,
Yep.
so it kind of like swerved and slammed into a guardrail and got totaled. So I
Jeez.
was literally like just doing wherever, whenever at this point, and
Yeah.
uh, so I end up walking down to the car dealership, which is 3 miles in the cold because it was still a little cold. Upstate New York, it's
Yeah.
pretty gristy.
Yeah. It's
It was springtime, so they were getting ready for the summertime. But in upstate New York, springtime weather is like in the 40s.
yeah.
So
It's still cold right now.
yeah,
Still
yeah.
sucks.
So I walk down to this car dealership, and I sit in the lobby, and I'm probably about 30 minutes early from whatever time he said. So I'm waiting and just waiting. I fall asleep in the lobby.
Oh,
I wake
jeez.
up and it's the afternoon, man. I wake up, it's like 2 p.m.
Oh,
And I'm
cripey.
like, oh fuck, I overslept this interview. I'm screwed. So
Yeah.
I go knock on the door. Look in his office. He's in there with the door open.
Yeah.
So I knock on the door. And says, "I'm so sorry, I fell asleep." He's like, "Don't worry about it. Come in." He's like, "Sit down, shut the door." He's like, "I like you. You walked all the way down here. You worked all night." He's like, "I just let you sleep." He's like, "I'm not worried about it."
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
"So you want to sell cars?" And he talked me into it. He was real slick. His hair was over. He
Oh,
was
of course.
tall.
Yeah. He's a salesman. That's kind of what they do, man.
So he worked me right into it. They sent me to sales school for 3 weeks. I don't remember how I got there. I think I made friends with somebody and just rode with them.
oh, yeah.
Um,
You'd have to.
you know, I did what I had to do, how I had to do it in every way, and pulled every string I could for a long time.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting a ride from I think his name was Alan. And his name was also Alan.
Oh, a lot of
But
Allens
I got
helping you
yeah,
out, man. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we ended up going to the sales training, was 3 weeks long. I get done with that. I go back and sell cars for 4 months, 5 months, I
Hmm.
think. I do pretty well at first, not too bad.
Yeah.
I met some interesting characters. along the way.
I would have to think so, whether that be the other salespeople or the
And yeah,
clientele.
I ended up getting a roommate in Sylvan Beach, New York.
Okay.
I
How
don't know
f-
if you know where that is.
no, how far is that from
It's
all
it's
this?
a lake. It's a lake just outside
Uh,
Rome, New York. Rome,
okay.
New York is probably about 20 minutes from Utica. It's
Okay.
where the old Griffiths Air Force Base is. So, so I go up there. I reconnect with this old friend from high school,
Hmm.
and we end up staying in this trailer, and it was in a trailer park. And I was fuck it, it's the only thing I had going for me, you know. So I was
Yeah.
like, well, do it, man. It was like 250 a month,
Yeah.
you
What the
know.
hell, man?
Uh, I was doing it. So I ended up I don't remember how I did it, but I was like begging and pleading for my mom to let me use her car. So
Yeah.
we should, for a while I would work at the dealership, drive it home, get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, drive it all the way back to Utica, pick up my mom, take her to work, and then go to work at the dealership, get off work, go pick her up, bring her home, and then go home. Now, this is
Jeez.
probably the one of the only times in my life my mom really helped me out, which was nice. So I will say that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's huge
No, nothing.
transportation.
Yeah, nothing monetarily or anything like that. Just with the vehicle because I literally had nothing,
Yeah.
uh, and no money to buy another one. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but I did that for a while. Then my adopted father, who was a complete tool, uh, at least to me,
Yeah.
um, started getting attitude about me using the car because I was putting miles on it and all this stuff. So I end up They ended up taking the car away. I got no way to get to work. I ended up
Jeez.
figuring out getting rides whenever I could anyway.
Yeah.
But it turns out um, I ended up getting let go from car sales.
Uh,
There were four of
fucking.
us that got hired. Out of the four of us, they kept one. They kept a guy named, actually, Alan, the guy they used to ride with. I think his
Yeah.
name was Alan. Um, and they, got fired again. So just on to the
Jeez.
next one. Um, I applied to different places. I worked at Taco Bell for 2 weeks, which I recommend to nobody. Don't work at Taco Bell.
Yeah,
Um,
that's rough, dude.
I worked in a welding shop for a few weeks. It had been a few years since I started welding, so I got fired from that place.
Jeez, man.
Um, because I didn't know I was making, gas tanks for DPW trucks,
Okay.
minimum wage.
Jeez.
And the guy was just like, "Look, man, I got a full house. I brought you in because pretty much it was cheap. He was honest with me. He's like, it
Yeah.
was cheap labor. He's like, but now with the busy season's over with, I don't really need you anymore. So I guess it's more of a layoff, more than a fire. I'll admit when I get fired, you
Yeah, yeah,
the
exactly.
Blizzard company was just like, this ain't working out. Like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they
but
future endeavored you. Yeah.
yeah. So I know a lot of people are like stepbrothers. I wasn't fired. I was laid off. There's a difference,
Yeah.
you know.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Which
Well,
so
so yeah, I mean, you're still, so you're still thinking locally, okay, what can I get locally? What's going on?
right,
I mean,
right,
it
right, right.
sounds like pretty much at this point, no offense, you've kind of exhausted all local options. So
Yeah.
what gets you thinking
I feel like
bigger?
I feel like this podcast is gonna turn into like a Joe Dirt type story, like everybody
That's all
starts
right.
listening.
We have a viral moment. I'd be all right with that.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, so I end up going from job to job for a while, working every place under the Home Depot for like a few weeks. It was like um
It was
a
like one of
seasonal
those things where
thing.
you stand up front for like day labor stuff, or you actually worked in the building.
No, I actually didn't work at Home Depot. That was afterwards, after I was active duty, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I worked at Taco Bell, which again don't recommend anybody. And then after that I worked at um a store called Express in the mall.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know how I got that job, but I did, and
Right.
they got me huge discount on clothes, so I got bought a couple T-shirts. At this
Yes.
point, I had moved from Sylvan Beach to Utica. The house that I was living in, my adopted father, he owned it,
Hmm.
and um, I was living down. There was a downstairs and an upstairs
Yeah.
um, apartment. the downstairs apartment that I was in um, had no kitchen floor, so it was all ripped up. It had this is my daughter, by the way. On the podcast. Can I come say hi? Yeah,
Fair enough.
it's my teenager,
Awesome.
thir- thir- 13 going on 30. Come say hi. Yeah, she's shy.
Yeah, it's all right.
Um,
That's all
so
good.
yeah, there was no kitchen floor. Everything was ripped up. There was no construction.
Damn, dude.
I used to shut my bedroom door at night because there'd be bats flying up and down the hallway. Uh,
Bats. That's
yeah,
the
I'm not even
craziest
kidding.
infestation I've ever heard.
Oh, dude, it was you could hear them like in the walls,
What the
the
fuck?
and you would hear like Count Dracula flapping his wings going up and
You're
down.
just like
There was
hiding under the
all
covers
the
going, I
regular
thought the
ones,
bat game would be cooler.
all the regular ones were indistinguishable, okay?
Yeah.
But there was one that was like the Mamba. Okay, this dude, it was like he could have been mistaken for Batman. Like he was huge. Like it
Oh,
was
damn.
just so I came out, I had a name for him and I can't remember what it was, but I named him. I remember coming out of my bedroom one morning and sometimes they'd be hanging from the ceiling in the living room.
What the fuck? Dude, that's wild.
So yeah, so this dude, the big one's in there, right? And I'm like, fuck, I don't know anything about bats.
Yeah.
Anything. All I know is I shut my door at night, they don't come in.
Yeah.
So I I get a neighbor. So this girl that lives down the street called Sarah Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah Dodge. I went down to her apartment, went to grade school together.
Yeah.
And she was with her parents down there. I asked her, I was like, do you have like a pot?
Yeah.
Like I can like she was like, this is probably 3 o'clock in the morning. So 2 o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning.
She's like,
She's like,
why does this
what?
dude need
She's
to
like
boil water so
sleeping.
badly?
No,
Yeah.
no, it wasn't. No, sorry. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. Sorry, because it was daytime.
Still,
Because
yeah.
I just woke up at daytime. She's like, "What do you need a pop for?" I'm like, "To catch a bat." She goes, "What?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, I gotta get this. I gotta get this bat, dude, because I want to walk around my house. I don't feel safe. You know, like this thing could eat me at any moment." So I get this. I get this pot. We walk down the street. I can't make any of this story up, Andrea. I'm telling you, this is all 100% from my recollection. Nothing is far fetched. This has all happened. So I go back to my house, and me and Sarah's staring at. She's standing by the doorway, and because she obviously she's not going to bed.
No.
So I take this pot, take this little folding chair I had. I go in the living room, and I'm getting ready. I trap it in the pot. I had to scrape it off. I had to scrape it off the
Yeah, just
ceiling.
like you would a spider with a cup, but it's with a
So
pot and a bat.
right, so this bat starts freaking out, right?
Of course,
So I
it's
had, I
going
had
bananas.
I had a garbage bag. And I was like, Sarah, give me the garbage bag, give me the garbage bag, give me the garbage bag. She gave me the garbage bag. I was able to get it in the garbage bag and pull the pot out. I don't know how I did it, but I got in the garbage bag, pulled the pot out. And these things are like rodents, okay?
Oh yeah.
You've got to get rid of them.
Oh yeah.
So I took it outside and I just like bam bam Flintstones, just sitting against the
Yeah.
ground. So I got this. So I'm outside at 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay, with in starter gym shorts, with this
Beating
garbage
a
bag,
bat to death with a bat. The
beating a
irony.
bat to death, with Sarah in the background cheering me on. Okay, I'm from my front porch. I've got all this going on. I can't make it up, dude.
Holy
So
crap.
I put the bat out by the curb, and went
Recycling.
back in the house. Right, went back in the house. I've still got to pay rent 'cause to my adoptive father. So
Yeah, yeah.
I got to pay rent for this guy. This guy's charging me. I think it's like 700, 600 a month, 500,
What?
500 a month, 500 a month to live in a house with no power, no running water, nothing. But I had nowhere else to go, and I didn't want to
Yeah.
live on the street. So I
Right.
did whatever I could to try to save up the money. And what I did is I kept working at Express. I used to walk to the mall. It was 3.5, 4 miles there, three and a
Jeez,
half, 4 miles
dude.
back every single day. I'd walk to Sangertown Mall in New Hartford from Richardson Ave in Utica, which is in South Utica off Genesee Street. So it's probably about 3, 4 mile walk every day.
Damn, dude.
There, 3, 4 mile walk back. Um, so I did that until I eventually was recruited. They loved me at Express, and I
Mhm.
was recruited by Journeys to go work at Journeys.
All
Well,
right.
I became a co-store manager for Journeys.
All
I
right.
was one of two people with a key to the store. I was a co-store manager, and then there was the area manager. So either
Nice.
her or I had to be in the store. I worked long hours. I was on salary, so I didn't get paid for any extra hours. But I
Oh
had
damn.
literally nothing. I had nothing going for me. And unlike most kids who spend that time of their lives learning things from people and um, getting guidance and having the
Right.
opportunity to go home and stay with their parents and save money,
Right.
I was fighting for my survival. So I'm
Oh
like, dude,
yeah, man.
I don't
Yeah.
care if it's 150 hours a week.
Yeah.
If I got enough money to pay my rent, and I got enough money for food because
Yep.
nobody was giving me food. My parents weren't
Jeez.
giving. My mom wasn't giving me food. Nobody was giving me food. I was left out. I was since the moment I got to that airport in Jacksonville. Besides the only time that my mom let me use her car for those couple months,
Yeah.
I was and she wasn't giving me food. I needed. That was the only help I got. So besides that, I've been on my own
Damn, dude.
since then. I landed in Syracuse, New York from Jacksonville in the airport. So I'm in the house. I'm working for Journey now. I'm a co-store manager. I do that for a while. And so at the end of the night, I'm pretty laid back, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
plus I'm super young. I'm 20 years old, and the youngest co-store manager in Central New York. Um, and at this point, I had been in talks with a recruiter.
Okay.
I walked into the recruiting office. And most kids are like, my dad was in the military, my mom was in the military,
Of
and they
course.
said I should join this branch, and it's in the family, or I did all this research, and I walked into the recruiting center,
Mhm.
and I went to everybody, and I said, my life sucks,
Yeah. It's,
my life
that's the
sucks,
pitch.
and I'm on my own, I'm by myself,
Yeah.
I have nowhere to go. I'm living in a house with no running water and no power. I'm walking everywhere because I don't have a car,
Yeah.
miles every day. I'm doing what I got to do without complaining. I just want one of you guys to get me out of here. Whoever can get me out of here the fastest, and I'll take any job you got.
Yeah.
Um, get me out of here, please.
Yeah.
And my Navy,
Do something.
and the Marines, or Navy. That really is between the Army and the Navy who can get me out of here the fastest.
Okay.
You know,
Rock on, man.
um, and the Navy ended up coming up with a job before the Army did. So I'm working at Journeys one day. My recruiter comes in to say hi. Doesn't say anything about being my recruiter or anything because
Yeah. Journeys wouldn't
they'll
be
think
too thrilled.
right, right. So the area manager happened to be in the store. Next thing you know, a week later, I get let go from Journeys. So here I
Ah.
am at Block One, and the job that I'm looking at to leave for in the Navy, as at the time, was ABH.
Mhm.
So I ended up getting ABH. Um, I had no idea what it was. I just said, "Fuck it, sign me out. I'm
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Let me out of
Whatever.
here. Give me some food, man. Just give me a hot meal and place to stay and whatever. Just bare basics. Okay, let's
Yeah.
go from the
Something.
bottom up."
Let's do it. Yeah.
So right, so I end up getting let go from there. Now I still got to pay rent because my adoptive father is so petty that he will evict me out of there. So it smells in the house. I got no I got no water. I can't even turn on a microwave. Um,
Fuck, dude.
I used to walk over to the pizzeria that was by my house that I worked at for 5 years when I was in high school.
Mhm.
And I got a job there when I was 14 and I worked until I was 19, which I never get why he was like that to me because, like, I was never, I never drank. I came home drunk one time when I was like 16, but
Yeah. As one
whatever,
does.
but
Sure.
one time. Um, I wasn't a drug addict, I never did drugs.
Mhm.
I was never skipping school. Like, I was just, I don't know. It's because shit on a stick, man.
Yeah.
So a lot of people say, "Well, I did." A lot of people say they got shit under the stick, but they want to read a sob story.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever said I work with you. And listen, when we sit, this when we're sitting on a harbor boat,
Yeah.
and it's you and the other person, like you learn a lot about that person.
Oh yeah. You
You
got
know,
nothing
I
else to
don't
do.
Right. I don't think I ever divulged any of this information to anybody
No,
because
no,
I
you never
never
said any
want
of
I never
this.
want anybody to feel bad for me or
Yeah,
ever write a sob story or anything like that.
right.
Um, so I'm at the house and I end up going to this pizzeria and I didn't say anything about me being in a bad spot or anything, but they would give me slices of pizza and like hook
Nice.
me up there so I had something to eat.
Yeah.
Um, I ended up taking my bags. I got fed up with how I was being treated
Oh yeah.
and why my mom wouldn't help me out or anything. So I put my clothes, I put them in bags, and I went to my parents' house.
Mhm.
Who when I say parents, I mean my adoptive father and my mom, who at this point moved to Sequoia,
Mhm.
which is probably 10, 15 minutes outside Utica.
Yeah.
I had my meth head uncle take me, coincidentally the one that got in a fight with. He dropped me off, which was nice of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I had a one garbage bag full of everything I own. And
Jeez.
look, man, I got a contract. I'm leaving for the Navy. I got like 5 months left.
Yeah.
I'll stay in the basement.
Yeah.
Just let me stay. It's a split level home. Like
Yeah.
there's technically no real basement, but I was like, I'll stay in the bedroom downstairs.
Yeah.
Like
Something. Help me out, and then you'll never have to see me again.
you'll never
Yeah.
have to see me again. Just let me stay here for 5 months. I'll work. I'll pay you rent while I'm
Yeah.
here. Like I'll find a job. You know, I've always found a job. Like I'll do whatever.
Yeah.
He said, fuck, he said, F you. You know, we can't, he's like, we can't live together. And I'm sure for anybody, if there is anybody watching or if you're thinking, oh man, there's got to be more to this story, man. There's got to be more to the story. Wow, who treats their kid like that? There is not more to this story. Okay.
Yeah.
The only more to the story is him and I didn't get along.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it. That was it. It wasn't on drugs, wasn't alcoholic, graduated high school,
Yeah.
trying to live. That's it.
Yeah.
That was mine. I wasn't gangbanging. I wasn't doing anything dumb. I
Yeah.
was trying to figure it out without any guidance at
Yeah.
19 years old. So I'm 20 at this point. I end up uh he ends up calling the state police on me. Um without even an argument ensuing. He tells me to leave. I'm like, no, yes, no, I'm not accepting this type of treatment. I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
Let me talk to my mom. So he goes back inside. Okay, uses the cordless phone, calls the state police, has them escort me off the property. I end up going to um, my uncle had left at that point, so all I had was this garbage bag. I remember walking down the street. I just went to the parking lot of this place called Orchard Hall in Sequoia.
Mhm.
Um, I sat there, which is historic, by the way. You can look it up. It's a historic place. It's been up since like 1700s or something like that.
Damn.
It's a restaurant. It's a restaurant now. A lot of people say it's haunted, but anyway. So I am.
Nice.
So I'm down there sitting in the parking lot, just thinking about what the hell I'm gonna do for the next 5 months.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of time.
So I go back down to this house that I was living in with no power or anything like that. Basically, become a squatter.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't pay rent. What are you gonna
I
do?
can't pay rent, so basically become a squatter. And for those of you that know the legalities of trespassing, which I know very well now doing my job, and we'll get into that, but.
Yeah.
Um, Once you've established residency, you can't just be thrown out and they need to evict you. So
Yeah.
I said, you're going to have to evict me because I'm not sleeping on the street.
Yeah.
So basically became a squatter, couldn't pay rent. Um, my recruiter didn't know that I was walking to the recruiting station every time. Once he found out, he took the gubby and picked me up
Oh, that's
and he started
awesome.
taking me. Yeah, yeah. He was a great guy. I'm not going to drop his name on here, but he's a chief now.
Huh.
Um, Good dude. So the aviation contract ended up falling through for ABH.
Oh
So then
shit.
he's like, look, man, you want to be high speed, low drag? We got the job for you. It's called Master at Arms. I'm like, oh, what's that, dude? He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
he's like, you're basically, like base security and stuff like that. I'm like, does it get me out of here? And he was like, yep, we got one billet open. I was like, give it to me.
Yeah. Get me out of here
Whatever,
right
whatever
now.
you got, give it to me. Give it to me. Right. So he gives me this job, and at the time, let's see, it was 2010.
Hmm.
So I believe Obama was still in office at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
So, historically, when the Democrats in office, they downsize the military. And I
That's how
mean,
it
it's what
goes.
happened. So it was even harder to find a job at that point. So when something became available, I was like, dude, I don't care. Sign me up. I'll take it. Let's go.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they signed me up, and I lived scraping, hanging out at the pizzeria until they give me slices. I did whatever I had to do
Yeah.
without burdening anybody.
Right.
Um, or feeling like I was burdening anybody for food.
Right.
And I did other stuff that I'm not gonna. I didn't nothing. I wasn't hanging out with the wrong people or anything like that. But there
Yeah.
were things I had to do to get food that I'm not proud of.
Hmm.
Stuff like that had to get me through. So I
Yeah.
had to do that, which makes me much more empathetic in my job now.
Good.
Um,
Oh, that's good
so
perspective, man.
and I admitted to all that when I joined the police department. So it's not like it's nothing they don't know.
Right.
But I end up doing that, and knowing that if something were to go wrong with that, I could mess up my whole chances of even getting in.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
end up I only did that when I had to, and um,
Well, how about? Well, I mean,
I
once
ended
you find out that you can get Master at Arms, I mean, do they have a timeline for when you're leaving, or what's your new wait time?
up. So at the time too, I had bad acne when I was a teenager,
Hmm.
18, 19 years old, 20 years old, and I got denied medically twice at MEPS because if your acne opens up because you wear the vests and stuff like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
it cause infection, and then the VA doesn't want to pay people as it is, and they're looking ahead and they're like, this guy's going to make a VA claim, we're going to have to pay him for the rest of his life, blah 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 blah. Well, and the third time, if you get denied the third time, that's it. There's no coming back. You're barred. So I
Jeez,
remember
dude.
coming back in the third time, and the doctor's like, "What branch you join?" I said, "The Navy." And he looked at me and he goes, and I said, "Look, man." And the people were standing behind me, and I didn't care if I sounded like a beggar. I said, "Look, man, I got nothing.
Yeah.
I got absolutely nothing. If you don't approve this right now," I said, "I will be fine." I looked at him and I said, "Look at me." I said, "I will be fine. If you don't approve this, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I'm
Yeah.
living, I'm living horribly,
Yeah.
horrible." And he said, he looked at me, and I'm not even kidding. It's like a movie, and I can't make any of this stuff up. Turns around, looks to the record, he sighs, he looks at me, makes a little gesture with his mouth, stamps it approved. I
Damn,
end up
dude.
leaving the room, dude. I'm like, whoo,
Yeah.
like
What a
wow,
relief.
dude,
Yeah.
what a relief. So I end up getting approved.
That's
And
great,
that's
man.
it, man. I think like 3 months. I lived like that for like 3 more months.
That's right. Yeah, boot camp's like a resort by the time like you
Yeah,
get done.
so I get, yes, seriously. So I get the boot camp, right? And I'm getting breakfast, I'm getting lunch, I'm getting dinner.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is awesome. Everybody else is losing weight. I'm gaining weight.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like it's like this more than I had before. It's calories.
Yeah.
I get yelled at. I don't care.
Well, dude, and then
So
then like you get to A school at Lackland, and like we always had problems with mold and roaches and stuff.
yeah,
You're probably like, this is the
yeah.
cleanest place I've ever lived.
Yeah, oh, it's great. I got running water. I got
Yeah,
hot water, and it's
unreal.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had no complaints, man. And so I leave for the military. Finally. Oh, I'm on this plane. Everybody else is like, "Oh, my babies."
You're
I'm
flying
by
solo.
myself, man.
Yeah.
I'm flying solo. I hop on a plane. I'm leaving. I remember looking out the window, thinking like, "Oh, this is awesome." I'm finally gonna have a roof over my head, and running water, and like
Yeah.
basic things that take for granted.
Yeah. Yeah. People do, man.
So so we get to Chicago, and they take us over to boot camp, and you remember that where we stay up for like 2 or 3 days for the
Yeah.
first couple days overnight,
Yeah.
and you know we're adjusting the military life and going through it, whatever. So we're in boot camp. I ended up I didn't have any roles within the section,
Right.
but I ended up becoming the ship staff RPOC. So I did do that.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the ship staff, remember, were the ones that used to clean the
Right.
building where we tell our ship. So I was the RPOC of that, and
All right.
that was pretty interesting. Um, the starboard watch messed up the watch bill one day, and the wrong watch bill got sent to every compartment in the ship. So while I was sick, you know how everybody gets like deathly sick
Oh, of
in boot
course.
camp.
Yeah.
So I got deathly sick, and I had to go around to every single compartment and get beat by every RDC. And like, I think it was like 5 to 10 minutes in every compartment. Like all through, I got to the
Fuck.
third floor until one of them felt so bad for me that they just told me to go back to my compartment. So I went back to my compartment. Um, that happened. Uh, I always kind of felt because of work, it took me a while to get comfortable in social situations because
Yeah.
of how used to the solitude I was and being on my own and not being able to relate to a whole lot of people. So I remember after boot camp, I went to uh a school,
Right.
where again I was kind of like, stayed to myself. I didn't go out in town with the rest of the guys and people.
Yeah.
I just stayed in my room afterwards, hung out, and I went to training like I was supposed to and did my thing and left. It's my daughter. She calls you.
Ah.
So I end up. Sorry about that.
Oh, all good, man.
So yeah, so I end up getting through A school. Um, I leave there. I go to. They tell me I qualify for this program called PRP.
Yes. Yeah, they sell you on it, dude. You're like, oh, this sounds
Yeah,
awesome.
where
And it's like,
allegedly we get steak and lobster and gourmet meals.
couldn't have been a bigger line of bullshit. Like, I swear to God, they served pig's feet one time. I'm just like, never
Yeah,
mind.
they were like, "Yeah, man, you get steak and lobster, you get treated like a king. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be so much fun." So, me, I'm 20 years old. Used to getting free slices of pizza whenever I could. I'm like, steak and lobster. Yeah, let's go. Let's do
Yeah,
it. So sign me up.
make it
Which I didn't
happen.
have a choice for. What you remember, you don't have a choice anyway. If you qualify, you're going.
Oh, yeah.
You're either going, stop. You're either going to Georgia or you're going to Washington State. She's lighting a lighter for her sad story.
Ah,
It's-
okay.
so,
Awesome.
so we get to Washington State. I stop. I ended up first day, dude. First day of, remember, what do they call the training with
Or,
orientation? That's what it was. The
yeah.
first day of the first day. I overslept my alarm and
Oh,
showed up.
no.
I showed up probably in 2 hours after Ort
Holy
started.
shit.
I remember walking down to the quarterdeck and I told him, I said, I'm in my NSUs because it was first day was NSUs. And I said, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. Like, I woke up
Yeah.
late. I'm freaking out. And I was like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And he's like, I forget his name. He was like, you remember how they talked to us,
Oh,
as
yeah.
a Marine Sergeant in MA2, and he was like, holy shit. Fucking Stephen Brown, all this stuff. They chew me out. They walk me down to the Ort building. I get down there, and then that look, dude, like when you walk in the class and like everybody else is there on time, you're the only one that's
Oh,
late,
God.
and like
It's a
everybody's
nightmare
staring.
scenario. I'll probably dream
So
about something
everybody's
like that
staring a
tonight.
hole. They're staring a hole at me, and they're like, "That's him, dude. Like that's the fuck up."
Oh, man.
That's the feeling I'm getting already, and I'm already like a little like awkward socially because of
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
else that I just went through, and I'm just like, "Well, fuck. Well, I'm like, I don't want any friends anyway. Like whatever."
Yeah.
So I sit down, like, and we start learning how to take apart the rifles a lot faster and all that. And the Marines are like, "Oh, they don't know how to do this," and you probably remember that, and
Oh, of
like.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Treat you like
So
tards.
yeah, so I get through Ort. I ended up going to this division called Harbor Security
Mm-hmm.
because they pulled me to the side and they said, "Hey, you swim?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "All right, we're going to Harbor," just like that. I don't
Wow.
know if that happened to you or if they asked you that,
No, they
but they're
sent our
like, "Harbor."
entire class to Harbor for some reason. But yeah.
Yeah, they were like, "Can you swim? Nobody else can swim. We're going to Harbor." I was like, "Oh, I should have said no." But anyway, so I think did we have to get second class swim calls? Was that a thing?
Yeah, yeah.
So I had to do that. I passed that, and then I was able to go to Harbor. So I went to Harbor. I met this few motivated people
A
in the
few.
Harbor security unit.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
few, the not so proud,
Uh,
the
yeah.
yeah.
uh,
Dude.
and we were the redheaded stepchild of the PRP program,
Yes, we
and
were.
I ended up. Well, that's when my story started. And you know my story there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think explaining my background a little bit might have explained why I acted the way I did at some points.
Yeah, yeah. No, you telling me that now, like looking back, it's like, okay, well things make a lot more sense now. Yeah.
Right. So I just felt like an outcast for a long time until I was able to get over everything that I had been through before.
Yeah.
And and then there was one guy in particular, and there were a couple people in particular that were extra assholes.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and then I ended up getting my revenge on him in the harbor party. But if you're not in harbor, you don't know about the harbor party.
Nope.
But
I'll never tell. Nope. Mainly because
people were
I
running,
wasn't conscious for any of it. That helps, but
people were running into bushes, getting arrested by the cops. Stop.
dude,
And
ridiculous.
yeah, it was nuts. So uh, got DRB'd a few times. Got some character built into me.
Yeah.
Uh, 3 times to be exact. I backed up a duty band into the fence at the WSIF, and
That's pretty much
I broke
standard.
I broke the tail light cover because I was a third class at the time, and I was the highest ranking person in the van. I ended up getting DRB'd for that because nobody was wearing their seatbelts. I think
Ah.
you remember Pena?
Yeah, yeah, I remember him.
So they knew the reason why they knew they were wearing the seatbelts is because the I think the OOD might have been outside or something when this was happening.
Yeah.
And Pena, remember Pena being wild, so he had his hands on the seats and he's like Harbor, Harbor. He's like doing that in the background, and so yeah, I ended up going to DRB. I think Pena got DRB for that too, but
Damn.
so so yeah, ended up getting DRB for that, and then I got DRB for what else? What else? Oh, the duty van door. Remember the
Uh,
duty van door?
no, I don't think it was. I mean, the whole van was fucked up by the time I left, but I don't remember what
Well,
happened with the door.
they were like Brown. You slammed the door and whatever. Which I didn't slam the door. Was I irritated? Yes, but I didn't slam the duty van door.
Yeah.
And they were breaking my balls, man. One day, and really wasn't in the mood for it.
Yeah.
Um, I was getting drama back home, even though they weren't really in my life anyway. I was still salty about a lot of stuff that had happened
Sure. Yeah.
back there. I'd let it go, but I felt lonely, man. Like I felt like I had no one. I felt like which I didn't. I was by myself, so
Yeah.
I was still going through those feelings of why does everybody else fit in so easily and I don't?
Yeah,
Why do
yeah,
I
man.
feel why do I feel so? I don't feel dumb or out of place or anything. I just feel like I had issues fitting in with, I guess, the in
Yeah.
people. But so I ended up I couldn't, I just didn't want to deal with it one day. So I was irritated. I remember freaking out over something that had something to do with a hot tray, which everybody else
Yeah.
thought was hilarious, but I didn't think it was that funny. And
Yeah.
then I get DRB for that. Um, and then Chief was like, "Oh, we had enough of this guy. We're gonna, because I just got labeled as a problem child, They ended up sending me over to Div, which I liked much better.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic.
so I ended up going over to. I missed some of the people. I
Yeah,
never had
yeah.
an issue with you. I never had an issue with you.
Oh, thanks, man.
I never had an issue with Pena and some of the other guys, but I ended up going over to Div, Bravo, Bravo, second Bravo,
Mhm.
and I was in section with oh man, Mr. Cook. Remember Cook?
Yeah, yeah, Ian Cook. Yeah, I remember him. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, he's a good dude.
And Bradley, the dude
Yeah,
who got
yeah,
separated, yeah, the wild kid.
yeah.
What was his last name?
Boy, I don't know. If you said it, I'd be like, oh yeah, yeah, I know. But yeah, I can't fucking remember now. Bradley. Yeah. Anyway, so all right, you go to Div. You like it?
Yeah, so I go to gym.
How much time you
I end
got
up making.
left?
Oh, at this point, we're still on 2 year orders. So
Okay.
let's rewind a little bit. So before, I think I got, I was on a harbor boat one day, and they put it over the radio. They said, anybody who has 2 year orders, be advised, you just got involuntary extended to 4 years. I think I had like
Oh,
6 months left.
oh
6 months left.
no.
So I'm the 240. I'm on the gun. I got my Gentex helmet on. I walk over to the side of the boat, and I remember aimlessly just I just started kicking the side of the boat. I
Yeah.
was like, I was
Oh
like,
yeah, it's the
no,
worst.
no, 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 get me out of here.
Yeah.
Because for those of you who wonder why, um, our duty, it was a lot of hours. It was sea duty home. You barely had any time off.
Oh yeah, it
It was
was crazy hours. Yeah.
crazy hours, crazy hours. So, but I was still thankful for it. I wasn't unthankful. I didn't want to go home. I'd rather do that than nothing. But I
Yeah.
was a little, anyway. So I go to Div after the second DRB, which I remember Chief Turberfield came up to me afterwards. And he still wore red on his
Yeah, he
dress
did.
uniform, and he comes up to me and he puts his arm around me. He goes, "Remember how he used to talk?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Hey," "Hey." He was smoking a cigarette. He goes, "Hey," he goes, "Keep your fucking head up." And I'm like, "Why?" And he was like, "I still wear red on my dress blues." And I was like, "Yeah." And it's like, dude, what you did, nothing. If you weren't in PRP, the Royal Navy wouldn't even care about that.
Yeah. No.
He's like, uh, he's like, I went to an officer's wedding and started a brawl. I got drunk and started a brawl. I was like,
Oh, I'm sure he had the best fucking stories, man. Yeah.
yeah. So, so I went to Div. I ended up making, honestly, some of the best friends I've
Oh,
ever made in my life. I'm
good,
still
man.
friends with them to this day.
Good.
Benoit and Arca, Justin Benoit and Justin Arc and Matthew Arca, if you remember them.
I don't know if I would.
Arca was the sarcastic Filipino, half Filipino guy,
All
uh,
right.
and Justin Benoit
A
used to like to
Filipino
lift
in the
weights.
Navy. The story's already bullshit.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, so I go to section. While I was in harbor, I got married because I was 21. It's basically in your contract. If anybody's ever been in the military, it's basically in your contract that you have to get married and divorced at least once.
Yeah, yeah, it seems that way.
Or
Yeah.
else you didn't truly experience the military experience.
Yeah.
So throw that on top of the fact that I was lonely as shit. I had no friends. I felt
Yeah.
socially outcasted in almost every situation,
Yeah. Tough.
and I had real problems. So I wasn't sulking every day, but I'd be lying if I had if I said that I had issues relating to people, and I think that's what it was. We like to hang out with people that we relate to.
Sure. Yeah. That's
And there's nothing wrong with that.
pretty
We
much
tend to
standard.
gravitate towards people that we relate to.
Yeah.
Couldn't really relate to a lot of people.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
So yeah, so I had all that going on, and I ended up meeting this girl, and we got married after like dating for like 4 months. We got married, and yeah, so she ends up moving in. We get an apartment off base, right? I'm living life big now. I'm
Oh
large and in
yeah.
charge. I'm an E2. I'm living off base.
Yeah.
Um, I'm paying child support for my kid that's still in New York,
Mhm.
who is the one you just saw.
Mhm.
She is not working. My ex is not working. She was trying to get a free ride. Found that out after being with her for a little while.
Yeah.
Used me as a means. I know that you've seen that a few times probably in your day
Yep.
from the military. We have a term that I'm not gonna say on here for those, but Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was no stranger to hard work, man. So I was um, I can say this now. I don't want to say it at the time when I was in Harbor because I don't want to get in trouble. But even when I was in Harbor, I was doing this. I don't know if you remember me being really tired all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
I was really tired in section a lot. That's because on the weekends I got a side job working at bistros. It was the bar out in town.
Oh,
So I
jeez.
would get off work after a 12-hour shift. What time did we probably got off sometime in the evening? I
Yeah,
would go
yeah.
straight from work, put on a security shirt, go straight to bistros, work all night, and then go down to the pier and work in the morning. So on our 72s when we would work, I would be up for 4 days straight. So I
Jesus,
would I
dude.
would
No
I
wonder.
would work all day, work all night, work all day, work all night. Because I'm sure there were times you'd be like, I would say things or do things, and you guys would be like, "Man, this guy's." I probably came off as a hothead to a lot of people,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah, you're
really, really
irritable because you're not sleeping.
well on top of everything else, and now I'm much more grounded.
Yeah, yeah.
I think and this stuff is almost 34 now, so it's different. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's I had all that going on. I had a wife that wouldn't work, and I had to work because the side job because of the child support and because I still had my student loans from Dive Academy. So
Jeez, dude.
I paid as an E2, paying all that stuff. I paid um, $500 a month to the Dive Academy, which I was only getting like $700 a paycheck. I
Oh, yeah.
think like something maybe with even with BAH.
Yeah,
So
you're
I
not
was
making a lot.
yeah. So my income every month was probably take home under $300. So I had to get a job working at this place and doing security work, and that pretty much paid for my groceries and nothing else. And
Jesus,
I didn't
dude.
I didn't tell any of you guys about this at the time, but that's what I was doing. I'd work a 12-hour shift. I'd work at bistros all night. Go to the pier, meet you guys, work a 12-hour shift, go work at bistros all night on Saturday, work all day on Sunday, get off on Sunday and be off Sunday night finally. So I'd be up for
Just
three
pass
days
out.
with no sleep on every 3-day weekend that we worked. We worked a 3 to 2 3, so I did that every other weekend. Um,
Jesus,
and
dude.
it was rough. That's how I got the nickname Sleepy Brown. I don't know if you
Yeah.
ever heard that when I was in section,
Eh,
because I didn't want to tell my superiors because I didn't want to get in trouble.
right,
But I
right.
also and I also didn't want to. You can't tell them while I've got financial things going on, because then
Right. Especially
they'll
with
put you
PRP. Yeah, yeah. It's a big
PRP.
problem.
They'll put you PRP down. They'll tell you they can tell you to do whatever they want, so they can tell you not to work the job, which
Mm-hmm.
inevitably ended up happening,
Yeah.
because I couldn't handle the hours. But I did that for like over a year, probably a year and a half. I lived like that for a year and a half.
Oh,
Um,
that's awful,
and
man.
yeah, so when everybody else is drinking and all this,
Yeah, everyone
that's
else is
that's
having fun. You're
that's what I was doing. That's what I was doing. So maybe that explains the way I
yeah,
acted,
explains a
or some of
lot.
the way I
Yeah.
lived.
Damn, dude.
So I end up doing that for a little while. My ex and I get divorced. I obviously don't have money for attorneys, so I figured the shit out on my own. I read it, printed out the paperwork, draw up my own separation agreement, represented myself, and got her to. I took her out to Applebee's and buttered her up and got her to sign it. She signed it. I got no, and was paying alimony. We were only married a couple years, a year, maybe a year and a half. So it was just a simple separation, annulment
Damn.
type agreement. And it was over with.
Good.
No
Good.
kids or anything like that.
Yeah.
So then I was a free man. I was a free man.
Thank God.
So after she moved out, I ended up, and she worked part time in the mall,
Oh,
and
she did
was
get a
cheap.
job. Good for her.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah. She did end up getting a job part time, like 2 days a week. So it was a little bit of help towards the rent, but whatever.
Yeah.
So I ended up so Arca and Benoit were trying to get out of the barracks. So we ended up becoming best friends, man. They moved in, and for the first time, I think ever, I had like really close friends.
That's
And
awesome.
it felt good, dude. And
Yeah.
we called the apartment the Lion's Den, and we kind of yeah. So we kind of we kind of straight masculine. The house, everything in that house, just masculinized. I'm not really the term I'm looking for, but it was just straight testosterone, dude. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
and then we ended up it was amazing time in my life.
yeah.
We ended up
Sounds fun.
my life started to get better. I still had zero money. Okay,
Yeah.
and so I had a
But
lot of
hey,
money,
it's not
but
like you're
I would
in
take
debt.
I'd take whatever money I had, and man, we would get on the Bangor ferry. We'd go to Seattle, and we would
Good.
party, dude. Every 72 we had, we would go out. I had people to party with now, so we were
Yeah, yeah. You
partying.
got
Um,
homies. Finally.
yeah, yeah. So we'd go out there. I'd hang out with Billingsley and Salazar a lot, which I did when I was in Harbor Section. By the way, I take that back. They were actually my first friends there.
Yeah.
Um, but
Awesome, man.
so we end up going out there partying and just living life, and we end up. It's when I seriously got into kickboxing at that point.
Nice.
Um, and martial arts is what actually changed my life.
That's great to hear.
Martial arts, martial arts, is something that is there's a certain grit. All pro fighters have a history.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, they come from something that gives them a fire that can't be taught.
Right.
And I got into it, hit the ground running.
That's awesome, dude.
And it was like everybody's like, "Well, going to the gym is my therapy." I think it sounds really cliche at this point because a lot of people say it,
Yeah, yeah, of
but
course.
it,
Yeah. Of course they
it
do.
was, you know, I was never really like a big. I think this is the first time I've ever sat down in front of somebody and told my whole story. But I've like seriously, I think I've missed a few parts, but
No,
like
man, you're
when I was in A school, or boot camp, we graduated boot camp in November, so it was during Thanksgiving, and
okay.
my mother actually traveled to go see me graduate.
Wow.
And so I didn't have anybody except for her there.
Yeah.
My adoptive father didn't show up. My real father didn't show up. Nobody showed up.
Which doesn't
So
sound like his cup of tea.
so she comes there to see me. Everybody else is taking all the money that they got in boot camp because they didn't spend any other paychecks, you know. So you leave
Right.
boot camp, you got a little bit of money. They're buying phones and they're doing this.
Oh, of
It's
course.
2000, it's 2010, so
Yeah.
back then, they got the Blackberries, whatever. They got the whatever.
Yeah, whatever
So
was at the
we're
time.
yeah. So I end up going, and if you graduate during Thanksgiving, they give you 3 days, a couple days to go stay out in town in a hotel. You can stay with your family.
Right.
Um, so I end up staying in a hotel with which I had to pay for.
Mhm.
My mom didn't have any money either, so I paid for a hotel for her, paid for a hotel for me, and we end up like, okay, I'm gonna go get ready for Thanksgiving dinner, and wear my NSUs. So I go to her room, and my mom and I never been super close anyway, and
Yeah.
it's she's kind of little,
Yeah.
she's normal, but not really.
Yeah.
So so I go in there and she's crying. I'm like, "What are you crying about? Are you okay?" She's like,
Yeah.
"No." I'm like, I saved up money for months for me to come here and see you graduate, and I was gonna, you know, save that money enough money to go back, but my adoptive father at the time had taken the money that she saved, but without her knowing, and gambled it all away. So she didn't have any money to get home. Um,
What a great
so
guy.
all she had money for was to get there, and that was it. Which for
Fuck.
me, even now, and I make six figures now, even now, going through everything I've gone through,
Yeah.
the only thing I care about is respect from somebody. That's it. I don't care about love. I don't care about. I'd rather be respected than loved any day of the week. I thinking about somebody and how it's going to affect them before you make a decision
Yes.
is called respect.
Yeah.
And like I had no respect for anybody but himself.
No.
And he's since changed, and people do change, and I do recognize that.
Yeah.
But we still don't really have a strong relationship or anything.
It's a lot to
Um,
overcome to have that relationship even be functional, let alone strong.
so so uh so we end up going, and I'm sorry, I'm rewinding a little bit here.
Oh, all
Um,
good.
which is a lot. So remember, this is just after I graduated. This is before A school, before Harvard, before all that.
Right, right.
So I ended up going to Thanksgiving dinner. And so all the money that I had made in boot camp, I spent on a hotel room for my mom and I, and Thanksgiving dinner. And I took her into the aquarium in Chicago and paid for it. And I only had about $300 left by the time I was done. But and we didn't have that much. It was only a
Yeah,
couple grand. And
yeah.
you can spend a couple grand pretty easily in
Easy.
Chicago. I mean, it was, yeah. So it was. We did a few things. And regardless of our history and her letting her husband treat me a certain way,
Yeah,
I put all that aside, and I tried to show, because she had drove all the way out there. I respected that, and I was like, so I wanted to show her a good time. So I took her around,
hmm,
and we did a few things. I went to the aquarium. I took her to a nice Thanksgiving dinner. I was like, pick wherever you want to go. We can go there. So we ended up
yeah,
going to this hotel Thanksgiving dinner place, and I remember they brought the bill, and this was actually before I found out that he had gambled the money away, because I found out after the first night.
oh jeez.
Um, and she goes, before or after, I don't remember. But anyway, she puts the bill down. She goes, Chris, I can't pay this. The bill ended up being like $600,
Holy
700.
shit.
She's like, I had no idea that they charged this much. I had no idea it was going to be this expensive.
The ultimate
Whatever. So
I forgot my wallet.
yeah. So I
Whoa.
ended up paying. I paid the bill. I paid the bill. Um, Whatever, because I've never had money, so
Yeah.
money to me wasn't as important, because I knew I could live just fine without it. So
Yeah.
$700 was just, it might as well have been construction paper with
Yeah.
the drawings, like
Yeah.
whatever. I didn't have this money 2 months ago. Who gives a shit? I'm going to my next command. I'm going to get free meals there too. Who cares?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
paid for the meal. We ended up going to the aquarium. Um, and that's before she left. After we graduated, I slipped about $350 in her purse, so she had money to drive home
Damn,
and
dude.
eat. So my brother was also with her. Sorry, my brother came with her.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So yep. So they had money to get home and eat. I ended up going to my A school, and then the rest of the other stuff happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But then okay, but then like with you're at Washington, you get extended for 4 years. I take it you did not reenlist. You're getting into
I
martial
did.
arts now. Oh, you did.
I did re-enlist. I did re-enlist.
Oh wow.
So I ended up doing it because I still didn't have money saved. I basically I spent the first 4 years in the military trying to just get a base at life and start
Yeah.
out. I still had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. I
Right.
still had no idea how to save money, about finances, about the stock market, about how to, how rich people get rich.
Yeah, yeah. How does that shit work?
How does that exactly? And that was the question I had, with no guidance.
Yeah.
And and I've never brought up my story to anybody in the harbor section or in the sections, really, because I never wanted to be looked down upon. I never wanted to be like, this guy was homeless. Like, he
Yeah.
has a shitty family. He's got, his dad's a felon and in prison. And my uncle got picked up by the U.S. Marshals twice before I was 13 in my front porch. I used to,
Damn, dude.
like, I didn't want anybody to think anything different of me. I just wanted to fit in, man. Like, I just wanted to just,
Yeah.
be part of the group and whatever. So I just kind of went along with it, and, you know, that
Yeah.
was that. But my thing is, if I didn't like you, I could never fake it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all
I
right.
could
Yeah,
never,
we're not asking you to play poker for fuck's sake. Like,
I could never fake it. That's my
yeah.
thing. So yeah, man, I tried to figure it out, and we lived in a lion's den for a while.
There you go.
Um, I didn't renew the lease there. The Benoit and Arkham went back to the barracks. We continued to be friends. I continued on my martial arts journey at Hybrid MMA, which is in Bremerton, Washington.
Nice.
Um, I ended up competing, and then I started doing sanctioned fights, and it was the rest is just history. I mean, I've got photographer photos
Yeah,
and
man.
everything throughout the years.
That's great.
And I've even evolved now. So, but anyway, I end up not renewing the lease. I'm still in Washington State. Um, through martial arts and bistros, I met a lot of civilians. I had a lot of civilian friends. I had a civilian friend group that I was very close with,
Cool.
and I moved in. I moved in with this guy named Victor, who got me into martial arts.
Nice.
He's the one that kind of prompted me into going to a gym and trying it out. And me and Victor became roommates with this other random guy named Joey. The three of us lived in a house. We were all completely different. Unlike me, Arkham Benoit, Joey was, I don't know, he's just kind of like, his life was perfect. You know, his
Mm,
parents owned the house. We lived in
yeah.
Paulsboro. His parents owned the house. You know, Joey never has anything to worry about. He's got a perfect family. And you know what? I know some really cool, down to earth people like that,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
have a good family and they have good parents and don't have to worry about that stuff. I know some really cool people that are of good character
Hmm.
that come from those backgrounds
Yeah.
that are not
Absolutely.
bratty, that are not bratty and they act right. Okay. But
Hmm.
we're just, you know, just different. You know,
Sure.
so I lived with him and he's like a, you know, feel the burn Bernie Sanders type. I guess that's the best way to describe him, right?
Yeah.
And me and Victor and him all lived in the house. Some very interesting moments in the house.
Yeah.
I always had a side job when I was active duty. So I went from working at bistros. I told me I couldn't work there anymore. I got a side job delivering pizzas. Oh, I bought my first vehicle, bought my first truck at 22 years old.
Nice.
It was a second vehicle, sorry, because the Ford Explorer was my first. It was
True.
a Chevy Silverado. Um, it was almost 10 years old and it had 168,000 miles on it.
Hey, it's an improvement from the Explorer. You know, it's
But I had
newer.
but I had awful credit and I had to go somewhere where they would approve pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had an interest rate of like 29%. It was like
Holy
29.99.
shit! Whoa!
So yeah, so I ended up taking that. I was like, fuck it, I need a car, man. I need a way to get to work.
God damn!
So
I didn't know payday loan companies did car loans. That's
yeah, so
amazing.
when I was in Harbor actually, that black truck that I had, yeah, that's what I was paying.
Holy
And
shit!
it was so damn, it was only like 10 grand. It was only like it was probably like 8,000 in that truck, I think. It was but
Damn, dude.
with the interest and everything, it was like 13
Oh yeah,
because of yeah,
easily.
everything, you know. So I bought that before I got my divorce, whatever. So I moved myself from the apartment in Silverdale to Victor's house over in Polsbo and Joey's house. I get a job working at Viking Pizza. Remember that in
Yeah, yeah,
Polsbo?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Viking Pizza. I was delivering pizzas, and I had almost no off days because all my off days I would be delivering pizzas.
Of course.
And I did that for extra money to keep myself afloat.
Yeah.
Um, things started to get a little better for me at that point. For the first time in my life, I was so excited because I had an extra $200 every 2 weeks that I
Uh.
didn't have to pay on bills or anything. To
Yeah.
me, that was amazing. It was
Oh
so much
yeah.
money. I was like, wow, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
rich. You know, I was like, I
Yeah.
made it. You know,
Eventually happens.
call my mom and tell her I made it. You know, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so.
Damn, dude.
So I ended up doing that for a while. Still paying child support. Um, I end up reenlisting. I went to, so I wrote it out in div until I reenlisted.
Hmm.
Uh, and I went to Yorktown Naval Weapons Station over here in Virginia, which is where I'm at now.
Oh, all
Um,
right. Okay. That's how
it's
you
in
wound up
Newport
there.
News, up in Newport News. And the LE side of the house as an MA was much kinder to me.
Good.
I ended up hitting the ground running. As third class, I ended up getting Um, just may sound some of the lingo. If anybody's
Nah,
never
I
been in the
put up
Navy, might throw
subtitles.
you off. Maybe you can help me translate. You'll get
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
as an MA3, I got Sentry qualified and Patrolman qualified in under a month.
That's awesome, man.
Um, I ended up getting chief of guard qualified,
Hell yeah.
and I ended up getting watch commander qualified as third class. They
That's
wouldn't let me stand
fantastic.
it.
No, of course
Yeah,
not. They never do.
because I was the third class. Um, but I ended up picking up patrolman. I ended up. That's where I figured out what I wanted to do with my life.
That's what's up.
So when I went through evoc and all that stuff, it's not anything like being like a regular cop. Like it's a lot different. It's more. I think of MAs as more like upgraded security. It's like that's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
regular security. It's like high level security with um like limited law enforcement powers.
Right,
You know,
right,
you don't have full law enforcement powers, but you do have limited law enforcement powers.
right.
So I ended up doing that. Um, I ended up picking up E5, right around 5.5 years.
Nice.
I put on ME2. I started standing watch commander. Me and another guy pretty much ran a section together. He stood watch commander, or I stood it. Either one of us stood it, and we kind of did everything. I did the watch bills.
Mhm.
I dealt with the DoD security. I dealt with the days off. I dealt with
Awesome, man.
yeah, gathering a section. I felt the E6 billet.
Yeah.
Much different than how I was in PRP. When I got
Yeah.
there, I felt more. I felt like I did a lot better in
Dude,
general. Like I
PRP
did a
is
lot
a
better.
pressure cooker in terms of like emotions and attitudes
Yeah.
and everything else. Like
Well,
it's
not
so
only that,
toxic.
exactly. But at this point, 4 years in, I've had times to let my emotions settle.
That too.
I've had a little bit of time to grow up, which I wasn't grown up because I was only like 24 years old, but still,
Yeah, yeah.
I had time to grow up a little bit. I had time to get a little bit more mature. And then when I got there, like I said, I hit the ground running. I got all my qualifications, and became a watch commander, which as an MA, E5 and E6, that's your job.
Yep,
I mean, really, it's an E6 job, but if you're an
for
E5
sure.
getting groomed to be an E6, watch commander is what you're doing. So,
Yep.
um, let me plug this in. My phone's about to die.
Oh, yeah.
So my first eval, when I get there, most of the time when you get to new command, you either get a non-observed or you get a promotable.
Yep.
Um, and that is because it's for those of you who are in the Navy, that is a um, that's really more for your supervisors than it is for you because for
Mhm.
them to pick up for the chiefs to show that they're progressing sailors, they have to actually show on paper that they're progressing sailors. So
Yeah.
they give you a P and then they say, well, he came here and he had a promotable Evo. Now he's got an MP. Now he's got an EP. We're progressing him up a ladder.
Right.
So my first eval was an MP. My first
Damn.
eval as an E5, I got the number when you're base security, you get rated against everybody on the base, not just the MAs.
Right,
It's
right.
everybody that works for that base. So I got the
Interesting.
number two. I got the number two MP on base. I was like a 4 point something eval.
Hell yeah, dude.
Um, I was much more focused and less angry at the world at this point. So I
Yeah.
had nothing else in my life but to focus on my job. So that's all I did, focus on my job.
Hell yeah, man.
And it was an outlet in MMA, and I was still into martial arts, which again was helping me cope with everything.
Yeah.
Um, so I ended up doing that. Um, I'm liking it. I know what I want to do when I get out, and I just prepared for that. So I worked at Papa John's and Domino's. Domino's first, then I left and went to Papa John's because the money was better.
There you go.
Uh, yeah, yeah. So I ended up. No, I worked for Domino's until I got into an accident,
Oh.
and then because of the accident, Domino's they have like a really strict pizza delivery
Oh, yeah.
thing they go by. So I ended up not being able to work there. So I went to Papa John's, who apparently doesn't care.
Yeah, they don't do a background check into your
Yeah,
pizza delivery history, so it's all good.
yeah, yeah. So I went and worked there. Worked for this guy named John up at Newport News,
John
and
Schlochter.
yeah, for the last 2.5 years that I was active duty, I got a total of, and I counted it, it may have been 15 days off. in about 2.5, 3 years. My last
Jeez,
two and a half,
dude.
3 years.
That is
It's
fucking
15
wild.
days. Yeah. No
Damn.
vacations. No vacations. No getaways. No
Jeez, dude.
time off. No partying. I mean, every once in a while I was able to get a drink when I had a day off,
Yeah, yeah. So
but it
15
was
drinks. Yeah.
yeah.
Holy shit,
So I
dude.
ended up yeah. So
But yeah, I mean,
uh
you talked about like you knew what you wanted to do when you got out, so you're
right.
like
So
already
that's what I'm
eyeballing
getting
it.
at. So I'm working at it, right, and I know I want to go to Virginia Beach.
Hmm.
I'm like, I love Virginia Beach because Benoit had gotten stationed down here. Remember my old roommate
Oh yeah,
at this
yeah.
point. So Benoit had been stationed down here in Virginia Beach, and I was visiting him whenever I could. And I'm like, man, this place is pretty cool. You know, I want to live here. I don't want to
It
go
is
back to New
nice.
York. There's nothing for me in New York. There's nothing for me there.
Yeah.
There's nothing really for me
Yeah.
in Newport News either. So I'm like, well, screw it, man. You know, let me try to get down there. So I ended up applying about to Virginia Beach Police Department probably a year and a half before I got out.
Hmm.
Um, which I can tell you, uh, the process for becoming a police officer was way harder than joining the military.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
It
That's what I hear from
was
everyone, and that's been true for decades.
it was definitely an experience. I mean, they do a lot from the 56-page questionnaire to the polygraph where they strap you up like a criminal and ask you all these questions and about your questionnaire, you know, where you have to disclose
Jeez.
everything you've ever done and yeah, it's wild.
Damn, dude.
But and it's all these extra checks and you get assigned a detective that does a background check into you and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I ended up applying. I was lucky enough to get in on the first try. Um, and with all the money I had saved, I was able to buy my first house in Virginia. At this point, I had worked on my credit. I'd paid off my student loans
That's awesome.
on my own, and working side jobs and do whatever I had to do. And I ended up buying my first house down here and having to turn that back on. Brooklyn. So I ended up buying my first house down here, and
Nice.
then I moved in, and I had 6 months in between getting off active duty in the police academy.
Oh, jeez. Another gap.
So I had to
Coming.
pay child support, mortgage, and all my bills. And at this point, my other daughter was born, which I'm 7 year old.
Yeah, yeah. Holy crap, dude. What do you end up
So
doing?
so for 6 months, I had all that going on. So I ended up going to college and using GI Bill money to pay my mortgage.
There you go.
Um, and it had to be resourceful. So I did all that. Ended up getting into the police department, passed the academy, and the rest is history, man.
That's awesome, man.
Got married again, going through another divorce right now.
Oh, jeez,
Um,
dude. You like getting married.
uh,
It's you're like a celebrity or something.
I know. We ended up buying another house. So I own a couple houses here in Virginia Beach now. I rent out the other one.
Oh, that's great, dude.
And yeah, so I'm gonna keep that as a rental property just because I want somebody else to pay my mortgage for me.
Of course.
And it's when I retire, it's almost like a second income because all
Yeah.
the money will be, you know, the house will be paid off, and I won't have to pay mortgage on it. So
Yeah. So so yeah, we usually wrap things up with if someone was looking to join the military now, what advice would you have for them?
somebody looking to join the military now, I would say, first of all, and first and foremost, go to medical for every single thing that you ever get involved in.
Yeah.
Uh,
Good advice.
VA processes. I wish somebody had sat me down and told me that um, when I came in.
Mhm.
I nobody did. Um, if you decide the military is not for you, you know, I did two enlistments, but do four and get out. Do four and get out,
Yeah.
and you know, go find something you want to do. I'm much happier being out of the military. Um,
Yeah.
if you don't have anything or any plan with your life, go do it. Getting that veteran status is pretty cool. Getting it, you know,
Big
you
time.
don't have to pay. Right, your VA loans are very helpful. You don't have to pay PMI and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, show up on time and don't be like me, man. Don't show up late your first day at work.
Oh boy, yeah, that's a rough feeling. That's a tough one to overcome.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome,
But,
man. Well, dude,
yeah.
I'm not only do I appreciate you giving me your story, but like I feel honored, man. I really I didn't honestly didn't know all that about you, and it makes it's a lot of stuff where I'm thinking back now, 10 plus years ago, I'm going, oh, okay, yeah, that all makes sense now. Now I get it, and thank you so much for coming on, carving time. Because I mean, you're a police officer, you're training at an MMA gym. I mean, you got a ton of stuff going on. So carving out time for me, really appreciate it, and telling me all about your life.
I appreciate it. And then my daughter that I was paying child support for, I have full custody of her now, so she lives
That's
with me full
awesome, man.
time. My
That's so
life really
great.
turned out great, but it took a long time to get to this point.
You had to work your balls off
But
for it too. Yeah, like
find
hard work
it
pays
feels kind of
off.
cool to get it all out because I've never told my full story. So
Damn, dude.
yeah,
Uh, Thank you. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, look at you're working your ass off. Look at where you're at now. I kind of coasted, and I'm renting. So there you go.
oh yeah. Well, hey, it was awesome talking to you. I love being on the podcast. My phone is still going down on battery. It's at 2%. It's about to die on you.
Oh shit. Well, we wrapped up just in time, It's a cosmic
Yeah.
force. But dude, I again appreciate it so much, and yeah, love to come down to Virginia Beach, maybe go catch David Tell in September. So
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. You better be down here. We're doing it. I'm planning for it. So
all right, man.
let's
Sounds
do it.
good. All right.
Oh.
Have a good
All
night,
right. I'll
man.
talk to you later.
All
Yeah.
right.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.